Hi everyone, it's been a couple days. Let me tell you, been trying to teach you guys something new. Um, Hyponymy and hy- hypernymy. Um, let's assume I'm using this. I posted this in the ZimWriter group, and so let me explain this to those that aren't there or maybe on the internet. Artificial intelligence generated content, no matter if you generate it with a ZimWriter or any of the other tools, um, they write constantly with hypernyms. The example that I give is the apple. So if you're writing about something and you use the term apple, an apple is a thing, but it's not a very specific thing. But I want an entity. I want a known factual thing. So I want it more specific. So instead of apple, I would say Granny Smith apple. And there would be no, if again in context, if I was talking about an apple tree, well, I'd mention a Granny Smith apple tree. It's not that I'm really trying to get into the topic of that, it's in context. The article could be about anything that mentions an apple tree. But instead of just saying apple tree, I'm saying a Granny Smith apple tree. One, that's an entity. It's a real thing. It has its own description. It has its own Wikipedia page. Has its own Wikidata source. And that means it has all its own information of its own. But that also allows and affords you the ability to interlink other articles on your site based on an entity rather than a keyword, an idea, or a concept. You're interlinking on a fact like Wikidata or any of the wiki sites. All those a wiki is basically claiming to be a repository of sites and factual data and evidence. Okay, that's what a wiki is, or it's supposed to be used for. And so that's a knowledge graph. So if you're citing these, it gives you an opportunity in your schema then to link back to your valid source like Wikipedia or Wikidata on what that you have an apple tree mentioned in your article. One, it helps it keep your article focused. It better interprets, not keep it focused, but it better allows the search engines, all of them, to understand the differences and the nuances and the specifics of what your topic is. As I pointed out in maybe previous videos on YouTube, is that there are multiple patents that they need entities to understand in context of what your information is. So if there's no entities anywhere, it's just fluff. You're just talking nonsense. It's just there's no specifics. It's theories. It's bland, and that's where that thin content concept comes from. So Google also is trying to provide factual answers to people that are looking for things on the internet, and those all contain entities somehow, some way. They're rather asking about shoes, which is a hypernym, so super broad category, but they're usually, do these shoes fit or work or rub or whatever the case is. But if you put in Nike running shoes and someone mentions in their query about Nike running shoes or without the running shoes, then you're answering two questions. Google sent them to your web page to answer more than one question. They're answering about the shoes, and they're answering about Nike shoes. So, Google's into saving money. Every time you do a search, it costs them money to send that to you. One, they have to go through their data, catalog it, do all the back-end stuff, but just right then, the query of going through all those databases, plus the data and sending it to you, is expensive. So they want to send you to a website where you're probably going to get most of your answers and needs met. They don't want you to have to press back and enter another query, because then Google's wasting money. They want you to go there. They want that web page to have ads. They're making money from that, whatever the case is. So it's all about their bottom line, not yours. Google doesn't really care about your bottom line. They care about theirs. And if someone is having to search 22 websites to get their answer, they lost a lot of money. They didn't make much. So think of it from that perspective. And words have meaning. So when you're writing your prompts, custom prompts, or, however, some of these words really have true meanings. And if you look at them, it's real scientific, goes back to semantics, goes back to linguistics, you understand? Ontology, all of it. So this is truly all involved in our industry. And search engines take all this into account when they're trying to understand and catalog data and catalog websites. So the more you can understand some of this and take advantage of those little tidbits, like being able to be more specific on things like an apple or apple tree, or the type, you are answering more questions and making Google more interested in your site as an answer source. And that's really what they're interested in. Yes, you're providing answers and information for people. Entities are all facts. Entities are all facts. And you're just trying to get more specific. More specific. So think about it like that. It doesn't mean you're not trying to be ridiculous and stuff things, but if you're talking about, say you were talking about, you write an article about baking an apple pie, and this gives you an opportunity to kind of do something cool. You can say, well, we used 3 cups of apples to make this pie, and we happen to like these choices. And you put your Granny Smith apple, and then you put all your actual specific entity branded terms. And you put those in order, so you maybe use 3 in that recipe, or your suggestion you could use 3 different ones. But then all of a sudden you're answering multiple queries. So someone might be like, hey, can I make an apple pie with Granny Smith apples? Well, you included that in there. You spoke about baking and doing that. Well, there's a search query that your website's going to answer. What about the other apple and the other apple? Well, if all you said is put 2 cups of apple, 3.5 cups of apples, well, you're never going to get those visitors, are you? So it doesn't matter what it is. Try and broaden what you're talking about just a little bit. Broaden by meaning get more specific. Doesn't that sound funny? So if you can find very specific entities to include in your description or your answer that you're providing, you can sometimes just say, oh, like this version, and this version. Gives you a chance to comma, get 3 or 4. Don't go crazy and take advantage and try and abuse the system here. Add 2 or 3 options in there that they, have 2 multiple choices, Granny Smith apple or Red Delicious apple, you see. And therefore, now you're answering multiple search queries and saving Google money. That's my tip for the day, you guys. You have a wonderful, wonderful night.